There are truths about relationships that no one teaches you. They're never written in books. They don't show up in dating advice videos. And they rarely come from the people closest to you. Yet, they shape nearly every interaction you've ever had with a woman. These aren't manipulations or games. They are survival strategies. Emotional reflexes. Learned behaviors rooted in protection, culture, and instinct. And once you understand them, everything changes. You stop guessing, you stop overreacting. You stop chasing answers that were hidden in plain sight. Because beneath every silence, every emotional shift, and every subtle test lies a quiet language women have been speaking their entire lives. A language men weren't taught to hear. Until now, there's a moment when the silence becomes louder than any argument. No texts. No calls, no explanation, just stillness, and suddenly, everything feels like it's hanging in the balance. Did I say something wrong? Did I move too fast? Did she lose interest? But here's what most men never realize. Silence isn't absence, it's presence. It's not about disappearing, it's about observing, not punishment assessment. Women learn early that silence commands more attention than speech. That stillness unsettles. That withholding can reveal truth far beyond what words ever could. When a woman withdraws, she isn't running away. She's watching. She watches how you handle tension, whether your voice tightens or softens, whether your eyes look away or hold steady, whether your energy grows frantic or remains calm. Because real strength isn't found in what you say. It's found in how you hold yourself when nothing is being said. Men are conditioned to fix, explain, persuade. So when silence hits, many panic. They scramble to fill the void with messages, explanations, apologies. But this only exposes their insecurities. A woman doesn't want someone who chases after every pause. She wants someone who can sit with ambiguity without losing himself. Those rare men who understand this, who don't react, who don't perform signal something powerful. Emotional maturity without dependency. They become the kind of presence that doesn't need to speak to be felt. So the next time she goes quiet, ask yourself, are you trying to fill the space? Or are you showing her who you are when no one is watching? Because in that silence, she's not testing you to trap you, she's testing you to see if you're steady enough to be trusted. And if you are, she'll remember that. There's a kind of social intelligence at play in nearly every emotionally charged conversation between a man and a woman. Something fluid yet intentional, intuitive yet strategic. It doesn't announce itself loudly, but it manifests quietly in the cadence of her voice, the rhythm of her responses, and the atmosphere she builds around each interaction. This is emotional mirroring, not simply empathy. Not flattery, but an intricate form of emotional choreography. A woman seated across from a confident entrepreneur might mirror his energy, animated, curious, engaged. Minutes later, in conversation with a reserved academic, her tone lowers, her gestures calm, her words become deliberate. This adaptation is rarely accidental. It is a socially evolved skill, one that both fosters closeness and quietly gathers information. Emotional mirroring achieves two goals at once. It builds rapport. When a woman matches a man's emotional state, she creates the illusion of synchronicity, of feeling that the two of them just click. It allows for subtle assessment. The way a man responds to her shifts, whether he leads or follows emotionally, gives her psychological data without needing to ask directly. For the unaware man, the experience can feel mysteriously magnetic. He senses compatibility, perhaps even intimacy, but may not understand how it was built so quickly. If he mistakes emotional alignment for emotional investment, he risks confusing connection with commitment. A woman's ability to reflect what he offers does not always mean she is moved by it. It may only mean she is observing it more closely. In a culture where superficial signals are often misread as signs of attraction, emotional mirroring stands apart. It's not the laugh at a joke, or the lean toward a conversation that reveals depth. It's the fluid way a woman navigates, emotional tone slipping from warmth to reserve, from openness to analysis, all while maintaining a steady inner awareness of the man's patterns. If he reacts too quickly, she notes impulsiveness. If he withdraws, she detects insecurity. If he remains consistent, grounded even as her tone evolves, she begins to trust his center. This psychological dance is why some women seem to develop instant connections with many, yet commit to few. Their emotional language is fluent, but their trust is selective. To understand a woman's emotional mirroring is to understand not just how she connects, but how she decides what she responds to, what she resists, and what she ultimately respects. Mirroring is both invitation and investigation, a signal of presence and a test of presence returned. The secret ranking system, how she quietly sorts the men in her life. There exists a quiet sorting process that unfolds not through logic but through subtle observations, accumulated emotions, and an instinctual need for self-preservation. A woman rarely articulates it aloud, yet her interactions are guided by an internal hierarchy, a mental ranking of men that evolves with time, context, and behavior. This system is not rooted in manipulation but in emotional economy. It's a filter forged by experience, disappointment, attraction, and trust. At the top of this unspoken ladder are the men who have earned both respect and desire. Not necessarily the wealthiest or the most conventionally attractive, but those who radiate clarity of purpose, emotional strength, and consistency. These men don't chase approval or contort themselves to be liked. They hold their own value so quietly yet so firmly that women instinctively lean toward them, not just with their attention, but with their admiration. In their presence, there is a felt sense of security not rooted in control, but in composure. A woman may not know why she responds to his messages first, why she waits for his opinion before making a decision, or why she introduces him to friends without hesitation. But her behavior reflects her internal conclusion. He ranks highest. Below this are the men who offer usefulness, lightness, or distraction. She may genuinely enjoy their company, laugh at their jokes, and even seek their presence in moments of boredom or stress. Yet something subtle separates this interaction from true longing. These men provide moments, not meaning. She may reply quickly on some days and vanish on others. She may share stories but rarely reveal the fears behind them. While she appreciates their role in her life, she doesn't build a future in her imagination around them. Further down still are those she tolerates out of obligation or passivity. These men may hover in the periphery, available, accommodating, eager to please, but the lack of emotional charge leaves the connection flat. She neither seeks nor avoids them, and often forgets their presence until they reappear. And at the base are the ones she distances herself from. Perhaps they have crossed a line, made her feel unsafe, clung too tightly. Their presence becomes a weight. Every interaction feels like a negotiation. She avoids, delays, or deflects not out of cruelty, but from the need to protect her emotional space. This ranking is not permanent. A man who once inspired warmth can slip if he begins to over-explain, chase, or neglect her boundaries. Another, quiet, consistent in his self-respect, may rise. Every interaction becomes a small test. Does he bring clarity or confusion? Does she feel more herself or less? Is he emotionally intelligent enough to notice the difference between tolerance and affection? Importantly, this internal system is not the product of vanity, but of vigilance. A woman does not live in a vacuum. She has been shaped by moments when she gave too much too soon, when she trusted words not backed by action, when she mistook kindness for intention. Over time, she learns to scan for signals: consistency, depth, emotional presence. These are not grand gestures but subtle cues, and she ranks them silently, but decisively. To misunderstand this process is to mistake politeness for desire, or proximity for priority. But a woman's behavior is rarely random. If she hesitates to introduce a man to her world, if her messages grow shorter, or if her gaze doesn't linger, it is not always because she is playing games. It is because in her mind a quiet reshuffling has occurred. And that reshuffling is a mirror not of the man's worth in general, but of the emotional experience she associates with him. The insight here is not to game the system, but to understand that it exists. Once a man begins living with a centered sense of his emotional value without forcing connection, seeking rescue, or over-justifying his presence, he rises in ways that need no announcement. Because in a woman's world, the men she truly respects never have to ask where they stand. Her actions will tell the story.